Hi, welcome to another edition of Winning Ways. Unfortunately, James Goodman couldn't make it today. He's gone to have his toenails cut. They're using an angle grinder they got from Somalia, so he'll be back next week. But Andrew Harrison has come in. Andrew, thanks very much for coming in.
No problem, no problem.
We are going to run through, again, Andrew, this week, no group racing around the country. It just seems to be that lull.
Yeah, we always have that lull towards between the end of the champion season and we've got about a month before the sand starts.
Yeah. But we have got the big race coming up this weekend, R1 million on the sand, and it looks a very interesting race. They've
got a decent field this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that because of all the promotion and stuff for the Emerald Casino, they've put a lot into it.
DJ Vin Diesel, have you ever heard of him?
I don't know who DJs are. I don't even go to those things.
You look like a disco boy from the 60s. But let's move on to our three to follow. Right, there we go, three to follow. Just looking at the three to follow, we got two that came out of Gauteng on Saturday and one here on Sunday. But let's get straight into the action. The first one we found for you is called the Elmo Effect from the Gary Alexander stable. And I thought the hot favorite would be a very hard horse to beat here. But let's go and have a look at the race. Here it is, Andrew. It's called the Elmo Effect. And it's by Admire Main out of a Northern Guest mare. Gets bumped all over the place. All the action, I think, hinges around the horse second from the right, which is a Trip to Rio, who had such a sparkling debut, looked hard to oppose.
He did look hard to oppose, Paul, but Ian Sturgeon's having a really good run at the moment, and he seems to have got everything right.
Everything seems to be travelling with him. His confidence is there. And I watched this race, and Francois Herald was trying to get in Sheikh Hamdan's horse, and he looks across a couple of times. And just behind him is Intando Nkazi, which is the Michael Azzi trained horse. Pierre Stradham's riding that, and one of the orange ones, but it's the orange one behind Francois Herald's horse, and that is at many places. But the horse we asked you to find is now gone towards the inside fence, a good 3/4 of the way back, Andrew.
Yes, and I noticed Pierre's professional riding, he wouldn't let the favourite in onto the fence. He just kept him out. I mean, he's so good.
Yeah, he's absolutely. Now he's followed. Pierre's in the orange, as we said. I know there's a few in orange, but midfield, he's following what he thinks is the danger. But lurking past on the inside is the horse, the Elmo Effect. And as Pierre cruises through, so does Fish Sturgeon.
And Fish is just, as you say, jockeys who ride with confidence are generally hard to beat him, and they.
Yeah, Fish is going through a purple patch. Pierre's throwing everything at the on the run-up at him, but this is a wonderful, sparkling debut by the Elmo Effect. Really beats them easily, and I think this horse has got a bit of a future.
I just find it very surprising that it started at such long odds. 40-1, I see.
Yeah,
drifted locally off the boards.
Yeah.
Trained by Gary Alexander.
I was very impressed with that horse. Well done to Gary, and as I say, it's a Mickey Goss special when you look at the pedigree. But let's move on to the next one we found, and the next one was a race later. And this is a horse called Streak, who's by Ideal World for Michael Azzi, having his debut as well. He put JP Van der Merwe on it. Let's have a look at Streak. Here it is here. And it doesn't know much about it. Comes out of the gate, gets buffeted from both sides, and JP's trying to get into the race. It's debuting. And it's going over a bit of a trip, so it's never easy to run over this type of trip. And again, there were fancied horses who blotted their copybook somewhat. The eventual winner is a horse called Cool Chardonnay, and this is Waiho Mowing, and Carl the Truth Zeckner wins a good race.
And I see Streak. I mean, JP, after getting bumped at the start, they pulled him right over to the outside, to the inside fence, and he's last.
Yeah,
and he's making it up on the inside in the orange colours.
Yeah, that's right. He's a horse that I really, you really got to be pleased with his debut. When you stepped him out first time out over 1800, I can see the reason why. It's out of a striped, sparkly wear, and it's by Ideal World. There's no shortage of stamina there. This is a Maritzfontein bred horse owned by Adrian van Vuren and his wife Reika. And as you can see, it's at the back. So while the race was unwinding, I thought Confabulate horses like that would have a big chance. And Cool Chardonnay wins a good race, but I was very impressed with Streak. You'll see Streak come again. He elects to get off that inside fence.
Comes off the inside fence, but he's still lost, Paul. So, yeah this is a hell of a run.
Yeah, it's a very, very good run because Tough Tiger, Special Vintage, Confabulate, they're all getting into the scrum to make it a good race. He's still sitting back in the Van Vuren Silks, doesn't know what's going on.
It's coming through on the inside rail.
Yeah, he elects to go through there. And I think the winner, Cool Chardonnay, has got the red on, and that starts flying up the outside. You can see Cool Chardonnay and Carl Zeck on the outside. And here, JP starts weaving his way through.
Well, one thing about it, they're not going to get a price on it next time. Right?
Yeah, this is the debut run over 18. It's a really smart horse. This could be a derby horse in the making, because under very hard riders, Cool Chardonnay, but Streak really runs a cracking debut, and you've got to be with this one next time.
It's very seldom that trainers put their horses over 1,800 metres first time out. So you usually get a pipe over at 12
to sharpen
7
them
furlongs and sharpen them up. So that was a hell of a run.
Internationally, they step their horses over ground. You know, so in England, they can step them out over 10 furlong in their debuts, you know.
Paul, that's one of my big gripes in racing in South Africa, is that trainers use the racetrack as a practice.
Training track.
Yeah, they've got the whole of Summerveld, the whole of Ashburton.
Yeah, you know, in defensive trainers, they will tell you that nothing brings a horse on like a race. You know,
sure.
As we're aware of that. But I agree with you. I remember, you think of champions like Dynasty stepped out over a mile first time with Robbie Fradd on. Didn't affect his career. I know a few horses have stepped out over a mile. Yeah. Mark Airy, the late Mark Airy, used to like stepping them out over.
I think it's a whole. There's a whole new debate with the merit ratings as well. If you win first time out, I remember a very prominent trainer telling me, you win first time out, you did.
It depends how early in your career.
Yeah.
That's very important. If you win first time out with the 2-year-old or later in the 2-year-old career, you're inclined to get a higher penalty than if you're a late 3-year-old coming out in out of season. So you always see that's where it's, but it's a tricky situation. I'm a firm believer in stepping them over ground. I'm running one tomorrow. First time out over a mile. I'm not scared to do it, you know.
No, if the horse is fit and it's bred to go that distance, and you think it can go that distance, step them out and have a go. But you know, I say it's a whole new debate with the merit rating system.
Yeah, well, 10 out of 10 to Michael Lassie. He stepped out Streak over the 18, ran a cracking good race. That's our 3 to follow for this week. Oh, hang on, that's 2 to follow. Hang on, let's get back to Durban. I was so excited about that one. We forgot the local one. So the third one we're going to give you is a Michael de Kock trained horse who, if you watch this race, it gets ridden just about from the jump. It's never in the race. It's called Al Gadir, who ends up running behind a horse who hasn't raced either. Here we go. There it comes at a trap 5. Not a bad jump at the start, and Warren Kennedy starts getting into it. The winner is lost, and it's also an unraced horse called Fortissimo.
Well, it definitely gave Warren a hard race, because he never stopped from the jump. Push, 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 push.
Yeah, Warren had intentions of getting this horse placed. Now he seems to travel a bit. This is very interesting. The horse, you can see it in the blue and white, shake-hammed and
still scrubbing.
Now he starts. Now it's off the bit again. It's his debut run, and it's over 13.50. The winner's still sitting at the back, getting a little bit of kickback. Now he's got his horse placed in 6th. Watch it drop it here, and out comes the Shillelagh. Boom. Boom. One more for good measure. Boom. There we go. Now there's boom, another one. So it's got 4 or 5 smacks just to stay in the race. The winner is 2 off the right, really starting to pick them off. But it looked a good race, because I thought Colonel Bling would run a great race down the inside. I thought National Approval, who's second from the left, has come into the race at the right time. The Hamden horse is still struggling to get a place, and the winner hasn't appeared yet.
Well, it's so green, Paul. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes down in blinkers next time. He's obviously got ability. He just doesn't put it in.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. And the winner, what a great win by Fortissimo, comes swooping through to win it. And here's our horse, Al Gadir. The penny's got to drop.
It has to drop sometime.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting with the poly. I always thought when we first started that horses would win from the front all the time. But the horses that go early at the top of the straight invariably get swallowed.
You've got to be very good. It's working both ways. Funny enough, we saw Glenn Kotzen have a winner right there, quickened away, won by lengths. We saw Olma come from off them. We've seen the horses come from the back in that case. I think the test that we're waiting for is the big reins.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how we go. But the track's holding up quite well at the moment. I think a lot of people have been pleasantly surprised. And
what you've got to remember is the water helps it. You know, keeps it so there's no kickback. Kickback are much lower. If it's dry and dusty, the kickback's higher. If it's damp, the kickback's low, which is much more pleasant for the horse and the rider. But the key is going to be when we have those big rains. And you know, any track that's put down, they always wait for a good rain to help settle it. All right, I've got it right now. Those are the 3 to follow.
Pylons in the orange colours coming up. All in. And away they go in the Emerald Cup from the 1450 meter marker. And In a Rush got a beautiful break as one of the early leaders. Here comes Billy. Shattered Images right there in the early stages of the race as they approach the 1200, and Pylon is up there as well. Storm Surf racing behind those and a few lengths off that leader right now, and Tigers retreats in a white cap. Contador, Tabor outside of them. Warhorse is outside of the group and is about 6 or 7 lengths off the leader as they come for home. Magic Smoke is racing inside of those now. They 7 lengths off the leader. Uncle Tommy's a length behind those. Across the ice is also further back in the field as Shattered Image continues to take them along and lead the way. In a Rush and Nice Stride. Pylon is there in the middle now. Storm Surfers 2 lengths off those leaders now. They've been followed further back in the field by Contador's got 3 lengths to make up. Here comes Billy is racing just in behind that lot with 4 to go. Tabor is on their outside. In a Rush and the white sleeves. Pylon, Storm Surf now moving in. Uncle Tommy, they got 2 to go. Here comes Billy is further back with 300 to go. In a Rush, Uncle Tommy is between runners. Pylon in the orange and Storm Surf is over to the outside. Then Shattered Images further back, but it's still In a Rush as they come to the 100. Pylon is trying to take giant strides and come again. Storm Surf and Uncle Tommy behind that, but In a Rush has got something to say here from Pease holding off Pylon, and it's In a Rush who stays on best to win the Emerald Cup. Pylon was second, Uncle Tommy behind that. Here comes Billy. Storm Surf, Shattered Image was further back in the field.
There we go. Just talking to Andrew off there. Pylon, great horse. He got badly cut into in this race. I do know that. 64.5 on his back as opposed to winner 57.
And he's a tremendous sand horse too. So I mean, I think he won his last couple of races by 5 or 6 lengths. So, yeah, so it was he got badly cut into. But In a Rush, you can't take anything away from PE. Their racing has become so competitive now.
It's extremely competitive.
You can't ignore them anymore.
I know that when they come into town, you know what they're very strong too, stayers. When they bring up the Gold Cup stayers, over the years they've had horses swim across dams and win it.
I remember a horse called Statesman.
Yes.
It was ran against Surfing Home. And I said to my old friend Harwin Witherspoon, shame he's gone, I said, geez, look at this. It's about 2 feet high. I said, I've got a Jack Russell bigger than this. And then Surfing Home, it bloody paralysed him.
Now, there's there's some very good trainers down in Port Elizabeth and some very good horses. And there's good breeding yards down there too. So well done. That was In a Rush beating Pylon, and then Uncle Tommy also had a big weight. Don't forget this weekend it's for R1 million. It's the Emerald Cup. It's a great race now.
Yeah, the casinos put a lot into it, and good luck to the Pomalella marketing division. So
yeah, Racing Association and all of them. And we're going to try and have a little chat about the race when we come to current affairs. But let's move on to our next segment.
Alma's now hooked right out to the stand side. That's got about 3 or 4 lengths to make up. Light and Bright on the inside, Too Much Fun, and now Alma starts to warm up. Rachel Lee off ramps running on from behind. It's Alma though that struck the front inside the 200 meter marker and is going to torpedo this field. And Alma by 3, 4, 5 lengths and won it now easing up. Alma by about 5 lengths. Second position will go to Too Much Fun off ramp and Don't Mention It.
There we go, Alma, the plum of the week. It opened 22 to 10 and there was 5 to 2 available and it backed into 11 to 10. People are still taking 14 to 10 on it to bet. I can hear someone's phone buzzing. I don't know who it is. It's not mine. All right, so that was the plum of the week and certainly looks to be a very good horse. Funny how many dynasties are featured again, but very impressive.
Yeah, Frank looks like he's got a nice horse on his hands. I think she's a filly that might go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she won very, very easily there.
Yeah. All right, that was plum of the week. We're now going to come back with current affairs.
Want to get the best odds on horse racing and sporting events? For every bet requested, we review all the bookmakers and select the one with the best odds. As a result, you always get the best odds. Interbet offers tote betting, fixed odd multiples, and betting with your mobile phone. To get started, all you need to do is register by filling in your personal information. Log into your account and start wagering.
There we go, current affairs, and no racing this week, stakes races around the country. So Andrew and I are going to talk about racing news that has been happening elsewhere and keep you updated on what's going on. And the first thing we want to talk about was in the British papers, Wigmore Hall, a very good horse, was euthanized. The vets got there and they found they couldn't help the horse, and he was euthanized. 4 days later, a big photo was splashed across the Daily Mirror saying, here is a horse that has won £1.3 million, and you see a vet with a gun to his head. That can't be right.
No, Paul, I think it's just in bad taste as far as I'm concerned. I mean, these things happen in racing, and I know a couple of years back when Ribeiro, they had to put Ribeiro down in the July behind the drill hall, and the Tribune photographer somehow got in, and they ran the thing on the next Sunday, and there was a huge outcry. The editor of
this year's
the Tribune.
Sensationalism about the Vodacom Durban July winner with a bandit at the back, a camera got round there, and the horse was, fine.
The horse was fine afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, but this has gone a bit further because the British authorities have decided to get involved. They got hold of Lloyd Embley, who is the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, and said it's not acceptable. He said, no, I support racing. There was an 8-page pullout in that same newspaper. They said it's not good enough. But there's a protest group called Animal Aid that are pushing this, and they want to ban racing completely, which there's no chance of happening. But they've now called for a meeting, and I know they interviewed the trainer, Michael Bell, and they interviewed the groom who travelled this horse all over the world. I remember I met the groom with this, funny enough, at Michael de Kock's stable. We all had a braai at Michael's place, and I met her. And hell of a nice girl. She was Jill Dolman. She was very, very upset. And you cannot afford to put these type of photos out there.
No, Paul, I mean, our racehorses are looked after better than most people look after their
and that's
they look after their dogs. And if your dog runs over
and it's
well breaks its leg on over the fence, you can't do anything about it.
Imagine printing photos of victims in a car crash on the front page of the Sunday paper. It's just not done. But anyway, that's a big debate happening there. While I'm here, I've just managed to get hold of the field for the big race, the Emperors. Emerald Cup, I should say. I was calling read my writing here. And a couple of horses taking their place again. Uncle Tommy, always got to have a chance. And Charlie's taken up Rio Carnival. He's been a good horse in his day.
He's a good horse, and I think he'd probably do well on the sand. I think I think the sand will be nice and easy on his legs. I think he's got
White Line Fever.
White Line Fever is always thereabouts.
Very good horse. In a rush is back, because R1 million, you get them coming from him everywhere.
No, well, Gavin Smith is a master in PE, and he obviously caught them napping last summer, but he won't be so lucky this time.
I won't say, who's that?
Yeah, who's that, yes.
Tommy Gun across the ice, Shadowline, ISO Bar, Storm Surf, Anger. Horse keeps winning.
Yes, yeah, was heading for 5 in a row, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Done well. And Kalua Castle, very good horse on his day.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see him go on the sand. I think he has been on the sand before, but Jeff Woodruff, I think he's quite a useful horse.
Yeah, Tap Makatini's got that going. Brooks Club, he's a solid horse. I'm just looking to see Always L. There's looks like Midnight Run's getting to run now. Midnight Run has had run 4th in the Mercury. Is that the same horse?
Yeah, I think he's in the same class as Rio Carnival. I think the sand will suit those aging legs. Will take a little bit of the sting out the ground, and they might
Cetri Pink. Blazer Fire is also, I think that's the Yvette Bremner.
Yes, yeah.
So again, a very, very good race. If you can get there, get down to the Vaal. It's their biggest race. It's a great race. I was there last year for it, and I won't be there this year. Pity, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. They make a very good 3-day event out of it, where they have the golf and they get people down there. And the RA really does well. It's a very good show. Okay, let's keep going with international news. California Chrome went to Pennsylvania. The Kentucky Derby winner, as they call it, and the Kentucky Oaks winner went into town. Both of them had odds-on favourites. 1 won, 1 lost.
1 lost. Paul, I don't know. Kentucky Chrome was it?
Yes, California
Chrome. I mean, he comes from nowhere.
Yeah,
he wins 2 races, but
he's very good.
He's very good. There's no doubt about it. But also, I find with the Triple Crown now, when you go to New York, you're not allowed to use.
Well, they changed the rules for him. Remember, they changed the rule. They said he runs on this and he runs on that, or he needed the nasal patches. Do you remember?
Yes, right.
And they changed the rule, said you can run. But I agree with you, from state to state, it's different.
It's different, and then you've got 2 legs of the Triple Crown where you can use all that race day medication, and you get the last race where you can't, and then they blame the distance. But I think it's got a lot to do with the help they get.
Well, he flopped into 6th, and he was beaten by, the winner was a horse called Bayern, who went to the front, who had won the Haskell, I think, flopped in the Travers and won the Haskell, and Bayern went clear, and they pocketed this horse. And the jockey came back after and said, none of those guys rode to win, they rode to tie me up. He said, it's just not fair. He said, I didn't punish him. It's a comeback run. You'll see next time out. The Oaks filly, she didn't give any such trouble. She won. Right, let's move on to some interesting things that are happening with the jockeys. You jockeys out there, I hope you're listening. I hope you're watching. First of all, apprentice jockey Danielle Mooney, so a woman driver. She ran at Wolverhampton, and she hit the front at the right time and rode a horse out to win comfortably. She got 12 days suspension because there was still a lap to go.
Well, obviously you can't count.
Yeah,
maybe it should be like athletics, you ring the bell, so you go around.
They've got to have a bell for these women drivers, you know, and so she went, cheered herself home, thought, sure, I've made time, I run to perfection.
Mind you, I've seen a few jocks at Kenilworth where they're waving their whip in the air, they've got one winning post too early.
That's right. So, shame, Danielle has got herself, Danielle Mooney, she had an honest mistake. She had 1 lap to go. The horse finished tailed off last because it'd be let down. Right, let's move to jockeys still listening. Another one for the jockeys. Well, there's 2 more. Let's talk about a local jockey, well, a local lad who's now over there. Chad Schofield got 32 days suspension. This was 8 or 10 days after his 28-day suspension. He has appealed. Looks like they're after him, or he's careless.
I think he's one of those blokes who's so competitive that he just drive through anything.
Yeah,
so
he's very talented.
He's a talented jock. And I think he needs to rein in his temperament and sort of make better decisions and try and barge through fields.
He rode a horse called Seguero, and he took a few people out. And now he's got time to take a few girls out because he won't be riding. That's 32 days, it's a long time.
It's a long time, and you hope he doesn't eat too well either.
Yeah, that's right. Talking about a long time, there's a jockey overseas. This is our friend David Walker. Now, this is great. David Walker, overseas, you're allowed to bet on a race if you don't ride in a race. He bet on a horse. The Starps had him in for not trying fully on his horse. He said, I tried fully. They gave him a $3,000 fine and a bit of time. How much time did they give him?
Well, 7 years.
7 years.
I think it's probably not enough.
Yeah, 7 years. They said the fabric of racing has been questioned by cheating jockeys, and we cannot have it. And any guy seen to not give his horse a complete chance must go. And 7 years. Now that's a long time. He's 38, so when he's 45, he might be able, if his weight's right.
He bet on something else in the race. So
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what the crux of the matter was.
The crux, well, you could bet on something else. I don't know if you're allowed to bet on something else, but listen, ride your horse out that you're riding.
No, sure.
Probably the horse he backed got beat. So you got a double whammy.
Knowing how good
He's paying the bookmaker.
Knowing how good judges the jocks are, he probably did get beat. Yeah.
He's probably so that's a guy called David Walker, and unfortunately he has got 7 years. So you jockeys listening, keep it tidy. Right, the next thing, Streetcar was euthanized. There's a good statement.
Yeah, that was a tragedy.
Yeah.
Just reading between the lines, I think he probably had laminitis.
Yes.
Yeah.
They couldn't let him do anything. And you know, there's a list of great horses, but for my mind, it will be headed by Zenyatta.
Zenyatta, definitely. Yeah.
You know, she just was the epitome of great racing. She was a racehorse. She was a massive horse. I had the pleasure of seeing her win as well one day. I went down and watched her win, and she stood dead still after the win. She's a massive filly. You know, she came from way back. She really was ridden by the head waiters. And her defeat too. When she got beaten, the jockey took a lot, I think it was Mike Smith.
Yeah, he took a lot of flack.
Took a lot of flack, saying, listen, you don't just try and win by short head. A couple of races she won by short head, but she was a star. So that's the end of it. Do you know Streetcar's had 79 stakes winners?
Yeah, no, he was a tremendous stallion. Didn't he stood in Oz too?
Yeah, maybe Dali or something.
Dali, yeah.
Very, very good stallion. He shuttled. And then a couple of things, but Patinack Farms dispersal sales this weekend coming up. And I don't know if you know much about Adam Tinkler. He came on the scene spending millions. And he set up Patinack Farms. And he sells this weekend lock, stock and barrel. I think he's fallen into a financial hole.
Yeah.
And he really spent money like no man has ever come at the industry and spent money like this. And he sells 560 horses, farms, equipment, everything. It's a massive sale at Magic Millions. I am going out to the sale. I know John Costa's coming out because there's some mares, and if anyone wants to know anything about it, please contact me. But anything else from your side before we speak to Peter Gibson?
No, Paul, the new parade is out. If you can flash that up on the screen, please.
Zane's going to have a look at this. Let me quickly look at the cover. Champion Season, a festival of racing. You went through that. Marsh Shirtliff, my mate.
Oh, it's a great interview. Michael Clough is one of the best writers in this country.
Is that right?
And he's different class. He really gets to the bone, and
yeah.
It's a really interesting interview.
I must make a point of reading it. Marsh is one of the great characters of the game, and one of the lucky guys. He puts his money down. But let me show you the book. Clarewood Park, gone but not forgotten. I hope I mentioned the trainer of the last winner, but we're going to zoom in. Here we go. Let me balance it up for you. Have we got everything? Nothing underneath my fingers? Let's see. There we go. That's the latest parade magazine that's out there. It shows the two contesting the finish of the Vodacom Durban July, where the objection turned the results around. Andrew, I think that's all we've got in this segment. Thanks very much for your help.
Paul, it's a pleasure. Anytime.
And James will be back from toe surgery this week.
Yeah, I'll tell him he's got to pull his finger out. It's not good enough.
In a manner of speaking.
In a manner of speaking.
There we go. We'll be back in a moment with Peter Gibson on Your Call. Right, welcome to Your Call, and as I said earlier, we have Peter Gibson coming in to talk with us, and Peter's got a new role at the moment. He'll be telling us all about that. We'll be discussing certain issues, the ready-to-run sales, we'll be discussing Salesgate, and a few others that Peter hopefully can answer some questions. Peter, thanks very much for coming in, and we've got you for about a half an hour so we can interrogate you.
Thank you, Paul. As usual.
As usual, but you've
normal service resumes.
Absolutely. You're an opening bat for Kloof High, so you're going to face a few bumpers. Tell us about your new role with TBA.
Look, it's obviously started this month. The TBA is something that has always been at the back of my mind as a potential role. The specific title is Director of Breed Affairs and PR and Communications.
So I'll be working.
Well, obviously the Breed Affairs has a wide range of topics, obviously from the studs themselves and the viability of studs, to the liaison with industry, liaison with government. So I think, broadly speaking, it's going to be...
You're well equipped for that position.
Well, I think, the decade that I spent with horse racing South Africa obviously exposed me to a huge range of issues, right from the horse sickness, quarantine, exports, but obviously dealing with a lot of industry matters as well. So this is now focusing my attention, or my experiences, into supporting the breeding community. And I think really what we're trying to do is grow the business of breeding thoroughbred racehorses, making it viable, and obviously with a broad view, again, that exports one day will lift everybody.
Peter, I'm going to put your slide up of your role, if you don't mind. I think we've got a couple of slides of Peter. And that's the first one we're talking about, point one. But let's go to the next page, which will tell us the new role of with the TBA. I've got it in front of me because I want to just touch on a couple of points. PR and communications.
Yeah, of course, having a background in trade and having lots of exposure internationally as well as locally, it really is liaising with customers of the TBA, which would be buyers and sellers.
Include out of the country?
Absolutely. Our role will still, still involve promoting TBA sales to the foreign buyers, as we've done in the past. Working very closely in relation with the South African Equine Trade Council, which still exists. We'll touch on that at the end of the show. But of course, really just trying to engage with our two customers, which are, one is obviously the vendors, the breeders themselves,
and the buyers.
And of course the buyers, and making both sides of the experience a good.
Maybe it's not the right time to bring this up. I should bring it up later, but let's bring it up now. The TBA is owned by the members.
Absolutely.
Tell me their involvement. What do they own?
Well, look, I mean, the TBA is an association. It's been in existence for close to 100 years. It basically it's a unique institution in that it owns its own sales complex. So really it puts on sales on behalf or for the benefit of its members.
Okay. So anyone who becomes a breeder, some guy decides to invest a lot of money, become a breeder, has to become a member?
Look, you don't have to become a member of the TBA, but there are benefits from being a member of the TBA. Obviously, reduce commissions when they sell, but obviously most breeders who have a serious intent in terms of their breeding investment will become members of the TBA. Okay, so it is an association, it's a not-for-profit company, and all revenue that is generated from its sales activities are returned into industry development, which I think, again, is a unique platform within the world of thoroughbred breeding.
How does the TBA trade, in the sense that is it flush? Is it in debt?
Yes. No, it has a very strong cash flow position.
That's very good.
It derives revenue from its members' fees, as well as obviously revenue from sales commissions, or the levy.
Yes.
So that's basically, it's been in existence for a long, long time. The sales complex, if I understand, was built somewhere around 40 to 50 years ago. Okay. In the heart of South Africa's economic hub. It is a world-class facility. Yeah. It's purpose-built. It stood the test of time, and it really provides a fantastic selling opportunity for both sellers and buyers, going back to the two customers again.
Speaking to a couple of international auctioneers, they've always given it a thumbs up. It's been a great venue. Right, let's move on, Peter. Emperor's Palace ready to run sale, point 2.
Yes, of course.
Tell me about that.
This is now a changed sale, and on the basis that Summerhill have withdrawn their draft, we now have 114 lots.
114.
114. We have opened up late entries to allow for people who might want to take the chance and put horses on the sale.
Mickey put any on?
I don't believe so, not at this stage. The closing date for the supplementary entries is on the 7th of October. So, but the sale, as it happens now, the catalogue's online. It's the iPad application is also up and running. And
for the 114?
For the 114 horses. Let's assume that we get another 10 to 15 lots in the supplementary entries. Yeah. So we'll have about 130 horses to sell on the 2nd of November. That's the Sunday.
Yeah, let's just have a look. We've got slides. Raymond's got some slides in the back there. And here is the point 2 that we're talking about. Now, let's see the catalogue we've got, the date of the sale. Let me just jot that down as well.
That is the 2nd of November. That's a Sunday. It's the traditional sales date for the ready-to-run sale. Obviously, last year the sale expanded to about 240, 250 horses, and it was required that we took on the Friday night selling date as well.
Okay.
But we've gone back to the traditional date of the sale, which is on the 2nd.
Your sales week there, Peter, is a horses arrive, cocktail function, ready to run cup.
Well, look, let's just go back a step. Obviously, the whole purpose of this exercise, this concept is obviously the breeze up, that buyers can see their horses in motion. There are 2 breeze ups for the sale. One is at Turfentine on the 13th, that's the Monday. And then the bigger draft made up of the consignor Balmoral, Yellow Star, Jane Trotter's Ambleway, Jane Thomas's Far End Stables, and 1 or 2 others will be held at Yellow Star Stud on Thursday the 16th.
So the breeze up is in Johannesburg as well?
There's a breeze up for the horses that have been prepared in Johannesburg.
Okay, that's the 13th.
There, so they'll have a 13th. They'll be videoed and put up onto the website. That's on the 13th. But the major event
the bulk
is that in Moy River, Yellow Star Stud. It's going to be a really nice occasion.
What day of the week is the 16th?
That's a Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah. So that's a Thursday. It's going to cater for obviously buyers. It'll be vendors. But I think most importantly, as they did last year, Nicola and Mark Coppes did a real good job of really encouraging the local community to turn out and enjoy the day.
Okay.
So there'll be a nice lunch, there'll be lots of entertainment, they've got a live band, Nicola's Irish Origins will be shown to true colours, and there will be, just for guys in Durban and the Hillcrest area, there'll be 2 complimentary shuttle buses leaving from Greyville and Summerveld. We'll send out more details, but if people are interested in taking that advantage and enjoying a few drinks on the day, on the bus. Contact Pauline at the TBA, 011 323 5700.
Let me write that down. 011
323
yeah
5700.
And 5700. And that is
Pauline will make bookings for people wishing to take advantage of
from
those
Durban?
2 shuttles. From Durban at Greyville.
From Greyville to
Mooi River, and from Summerveld to the same venue. We'll confirm the times,
Okay.
but I think it's a nice opportunity for people who just want to have a good day out.
Okay, now that's good. And now they get up there. Let's talk about your preparations done. Now you're going to have the sale. So Friday night you're going to have a cocktail party.
No. Just want to take a step back again, if I may, Lav, to direct proceedings.
Okay.
Horses arrive. Nicola and Mark want their horses up on the Saturday, so they'll probably be ready for viewing on Sunday, the 26th of October. So that gives people a full week to actually come and see the horses. On the Thursday night is the cocktail. We've given that the other sale is happening on the Friday night. We didn't want to impact on buyers who wanted to attend both sales, so we're having the cocktail function on the Thursday night. Further details to follow. Again, it's obviously sponsored by Emperor's, and it will be at Emperor's Palace. On the Saturday, we've got the big cup. What we will be doing as a sales company is inviting all contenders who've got runners on that race to come and enjoy the race day with us. So just once we've worked out the log and everything else like that, we'll be in touch. And then, of course, the sale starts on the Sunday.
Okay, so that covers all that. So that's been moved to a Thursday now, the cocktail function.
Cocktail function is on the Thursday.
To accommodate CTS's sale on the Friday.
On the Friday night, yeah. And we recognise that buyers will go to both, and
Yes.
we just want them to enjoy the cocktail function without being impacted there.
Okay, and we're on song with everything there, Peter. Everything's up to speed.
Everything looks good.
Okay.
The big race will be exciting. A lot of contenders now sort of starting to show put their name in the hat.
Yes, that's right. It's really starting to take
Starting
shape.
to take shape now, and so I think that log should be out, I think, this week. I spoke to Roger Smith and the guys at Pumalela, and I think that log should be about ready now. So we'll get an early indication of who's looking like the likely contenders.
How many runners?
There'll be 16 runners.
16 runners.
And I think they're chasing a total prize of 3.85 million this year.
That's big money.
So it's big money, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, we're all excited about that.
All right. Another screen I've got here from you is sales issues. You use that term.
Yes, and I think the slide which will come up now will touch on some of the issues that we spoke about earlier. The fact that the TBA is a long-standing institution, and it has cemented its place in the sales, the racing environment. We spoke about the fact that the members own their own complex. It's a unique structure. I think it's the envy of many, many other breeding organizations around the world. Possibly shareholders is not the right word, it's beneficiaries. The members are beneficiaries of the sales environment. And a huge amount of our revenue that we derive from sales goes back into industry development. By my calculation, having served in the Racing South Africa environment, and of course it happened prior to that anyway, Racing SA was partly developed to fund or to act as a conduit for funding from our shareholders. By my calculation, the TBA and their members, therefore, have put in close to 20 million rands towards industry development, whether it's African horse sickness research or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, sure.
And I'd like to just make a statement now that given that Racing South Africa has ceased trading and the new equine research component, call it the Equine Health Fund under Ian Sanner, Wits Health Consortium, the TBA has now made its first payment of 500,000 rand towards their costs. We can touch on that once we get to the end of the show.
Is that Dr. Sanner trying to get the protocols in place for...
Correct, yeah.
For
so that's one of the outcomes of the closure of Horse Racing South Africa, which I believe has been very positive.
But weren't Racing South Africa contributing to the likes of Dr. Sanner?
No, not Dr. Sanner and specifically, but Ian has come in on the basis of utilising his research platform at Wits Health.
Yeah,
which
he's a virologist, isn't he?
Look, Ian is a medical doctor. He specialises in HIV. So he's dealing with, on a professional basis, on a day-to-day basis, the research environment, how these institutions work, how funders are managed and acquired. So I think it's been an excellent move to package all of those functions under Ian's division. Obviously, it requires funding.
Yes.
And the shareholders...
Who else is going to fund it?
Well, the shareholders of Horse Racing South Africa gave a commitment that they would continue with their current contributions to equine research.
Who are they?
Obviously, it was the TBA is the biggest shareholder, 33%, or a third of the company. It was Pumalela, it was Gold Circle, it was Western Cape Racing, or Kenilworth Racing, I should say, and it was the Racing Association. So those entities that
they're still going to
existed within Horse Racing South Africa will still contribute towards both the Equine Research Centre and the Equine Health Fund.
Yeah, it's obviously a very good thing, but just digressing or sidetracking for a moment, any progress with regards to horse movement protocols at this stage?
Look, I mean, as you know, we're in the current ban by the EU, and I think we need to look at the OIE, the EU, and into other individual countries. Mauritius is the only country at the moment which accepts horses. They're accepting them out of Johannesburg under conditions which are not compliant with the OIE code, but it satisfies their needs.
You're right.
So that's fine. So we are shipping all of our horses globally through Mauritius. Obviously the permanents as well as the transit horses. So the EU, we are suspended for 2 years because that's written into their legislation.
Is that for when they came out last year?
No, well, the last outbreak was 2014, which means that this year we had outbreaks in the controlled area,
and
as you know.
Other countries?
Other countries, it's entirely dependent upon them.
Whether
they desire to relook at the import conditions, utilising the OIE guidelines to extract from what they want. And I think Mauritius is a good example. They're willing to accept a very low level of guideline from the OIE, whereas the EU or other countries appear to want to put everything to the letter of the law.
I know we're digressing slightly, but we brought out PCR tests. We've made major steps, I believe, but we're still banging our heads against the wall, it seems.
Look, I think the fact is that we've got to a point now, and obviously Professor Sanna and his team, which existed previously in Racing South Africa, will obviously need to come on the show and update everybody as to what's going on. They've got a grand plan. It was developed at that export strategy workshop in April. It's going to require a significant amount of funding. We think that 16 million rand in the first year.
To do what?
To contribute to all the platforms that are required to get up to speed.
Okay.
And you know, you have to look at it from EU, you've got to look at it from OIE, you've got to look at it from individual other countries. You know, Singapore, for example, indicated that they might be willing to accept horses out of the free area if we lock down horses continuously.
For how long?
For the period of the quarantine.
Which is a month?
Which currently is 40 days.
40?
In conjunction with the real-time PCR, it will be reduced to 14. But currently...
So 14 days then into Singapore?
And then straight into Singapore.
30 days.
That's assuming that the horses are locked down. In other words, you start quarantine and you're proving continuous vector protection.
How close are we to that?
Well, again, we've had a change of guard. We've had, you know, Racing South Africa has ceased trading. We've got Equine Health Fund, which is now looking for funds to actually stimulate all of this. The development of the quarantine facility in Cape Town is...
Who owns that now?
That is owned by Kenilworth Racing.
How did they get that?
Well, they were a shareholder, and at the time of breaking up Racing South Africa, apart from the TBA, all other shareholders indicated that they had no longer a desire to be part of the quarantine business, and therefore they released their shares.
You're a TBA man. What was their reluctance?
I'm not sure. I don't think it was their core business. The TBA was obviously determined to try and find a way of staying involved. They offered a joint venture solution, which was rejected, and it landed up on the basis that Kenilworth Racing now is the owner of the business of quarantine in Kenilworth.
Okay. Peter, just looking at your issues here, sales issues, sports of racing built on diversity, are we talking about the two major sales companies?
I think what we are, potentially yes, but I think you take any race card and you go through the participants, breeders, owners. It is made up of a wide range of people, small and big.
Sure.
And I think that is the nature and the essence of this sport, is that the Ipitombis of the world can come from nothing, versus the top price sale, the yearling sale at a top auction, and yet the playing field is always the same when it gets to the racetrack. And I think the point is that operators require numbers. We want to make sure that all breeders are satisfied in terms of their requirements, that they have an opportunity to sell in a decent environment, that obviously buyers have choice and that they're getting the best horse at the best price. And that breeders, of course, as the in the
Peter,
business...
that brings into question, I know you're new in there, you've walked into Salesgate. Now we read in the papers, we see everywhere, Mickey Goss has walked across the floor, so to speak. He has his gripes. Whether they found it or not, you might know. You have spoken with him. He's taken another great sponsor, Bob Urim, across to a situation where you have a sale 2 days apart. You know, you don't see Magic Millions and their opposing companies, Inglis, having their sales clash. You know, Goffs don't clash with Tattersalls or Doncaster. What's your take on Salesgate, Peter? I know it's a tough question, but you've got to answer these questions. You're in the hot seat. You're wearing one hat. I've got to be objective and see it from both sides. Is it good for the industry? Is it good for the owner, the trainer, the breeder, this new move of putting a major sale up in Johannesburg from the opposition?
Look, let me say this. I've been in this business less than a month.
Yes.
And therefore, I'm still trying to understand the background to a lot of these sales issues and a lot of the general issues surrounding the development of competition, shall we say. Do I think it's a good idea? Certainly not. I think that there's no harm in competition as long as competition actually results in benefits for both sellers and for buyers. And I think that in terms of the current sale, to have 2 sales dates 2 days apart, you know, with all the bad press that goes with it, obviously it's not an ideal situation. It was unfortunate that the vendor that has left and the sales company could not actually agree on terms. But I think that there's a divergence of view, obviously. The sales company might appear to want to grow the sale, increase numbers, increase vendors, increase stallions that are participating.
Okay, see it from CTS's point. Suddenly a guy like Mickey Goss comes across, an innovator, a major player, and CTS now has, if I'm correct here, the 2 biggest studs in the country under their wing. The 2 most successful studs in the last 10 years under their wing. They have publicly said that they will pay their vendors in 30 days. It's a tough call, but they seem to do it. And I think therein is a little bit of a crux where they say, I know if I sell my horse at CTS, I'm going to get paid in 30 days. The company comes forward with it, and it's a system that they say works. Your organisation uses the same one as Magic Millions and what have you, that we'll sell our horses and we'll collect your money for you. Are you going to get paid at the end of the month?
Well, look,
are your breeders going to get paid? That's the question the opposition is saying. I'm just wearing the devil's advocate hat here. Peter, it's a question where they're going to say, I want payment for my horses. I've got most of these breeders have got to pay banks.
Of course. I think there's another slide that talks to that.
Okay, let's have a look at it.
Next slide.
Is that sales issue 2?
That's the second sales issue 2.
Let's have a look at it while we've got Peter here on this issue. We'll find. Here we go. Now, Peter, run through what you want to talk about here.
As I said, I mean, we spoke about buyer, we spoke about the seller and the vendor, what they both should be expecting. And I think it's self-explanatory as to what we've put up on that slide. If you talk about the current sales situation, where Cape Thoroughbred Sales has come on as a competitor, they initiated this. They started up in 2011 when TBA
ran the sale for them.
Ran the Cape sale. They then.
Why didn't they stay on, Peter?
They couldn't agree on terms.
Okay.
And Cape Thoroughbred has obviously sold horses in the Cape ever since. Talking specifically to the 30-day payment, I think you need to look at it in the broader context.
Sure.
Number one, the TBA is certainly doing its level best to change the way in which it collects. And I think
it's a tough call worldwide.
Of course it is. And I think
I sympathise with them. I sympathise with them.
Yes. I mean, you know, we've got... but the TBA is insistent on interrogating pretty much every platform that it has. There's a new team in place,
Peter,
with Kevin Woolward.
I see good news. Let's just have a moment with our sponsor, Peter. We should be coming up in a moment. Our sponsors are Magic Millions, and they're going to get up the slide for us now because there were winners during the week, and as soon as they're ready, we'll get back to Peter. Peter, you say a new team in place. A question I've got to ask you is, if you had a situation where you had to pay within 30 days, it would put you in a financial bucket because of the way people perennially don't pay on time?
Well, I think the point is that it starts with credit control.
Yes.
You know, identifying buyers who have had a track record of not necessarily paying on time. But equally, I think you need to look at the facts. And the facts of the matter is that in 60 days, 90% of payments have been made to vendors.
Is that pretty accurate?
This is pretty accurate. And I think that you need to look at clearance rates. You need to look at the broad spectrum of buyers and sellers. There's lots of private negotiations between buyer and seller that takes place outside of the sales conditions. But I think that really if you want to compare one with the other,
yes.
If you look at the national, I don't think that comparing the current ready-to-run sales is reasonable, because it's a late-minute decision. There are going to be changes made on both sides. But if we look at the national yearling sale, which is the TBA's primary sale, and you look at the Cape Premier yearling sale, which is the CTS primary sale in January, the cost of selling at the Cape Premier yearling sale is 12,950 Rand more than the TBA sale.
Per horse to the vendor?
Per horse to the vendor.
Over 12,000?
Over 12,950 Rand. And that's broken down on a slide if they want to put up that last slide.
Yeah, Raven can put up that slide. That's quite an interesting stat, that.
But I think the point of this slide is to show that you need to look at the overall cost of selling.
Here it is here, Peter. You can take people through this now.
So you've got an entry fee of 750 Rand difference. You've got an acceptance fee of 5,200. You've got your sales levy of 8% in both companies. There's a difference between the vendor buyback or the not solds, where CTS charges 8% on the sales average, whereas the TBA charges 7% on the actual price of buying back or not sold. There's a 1% difference in there. And then there's a race scheme, the bonus scheme to participate in that $1 million race. There's a 7,500 Rand compulsory fee, whereas the TBA contributes 500 Rand towards its series events. That totals 12,950. And I think really the analogy should be on the basis that the one company pays in 30 days,
right,
and the other company charges 12,950 Rand less.
Right.
And buyers, serious, in all honesty, need to look at the total cost of sales. Because if you take on a 500,000 Rand purchase,
yes,
the added stakes cost, or the fees of 12,950, is the equivalent of waiting 3 months for payment at 10% interest, or 6 months at a 5% yield. The point about that is that it is about cash flow, and we recognize that cash flow is very important to a hang of a lot of breeders.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are significant costs of selling at the one sale versus the other. And breeders must, I think, just make an informed decision as to where they go and what the impact will be on their business, whichever way they believe is important to them. If the 30-day payment is important, they must go into those sales environments knowing that they've got the right product, and that it's going to, that return and the additional cost of selling is going to be offset somewhere. I think that's an explanation.
Yeah, you push a good case here, you know, if you're comparing it that way, you know.
And I think that breeders, you know, Susan Rout, chairman of the TBA, wrote an excellent analysis to all the breeders, where she broke down all the components of selling and the impact potentially of, let's call it, competition. It's out there on the website. I think breeders and others that are interested have an opportunity to interrogate it. But at the end of the day, you know, the TBA is in existence for the benefit of its members. And I think we all need to understand what the true cost of competition is.
Okay.
And whilst, and I go back to another point, is that I think Susan made it very clearly, is that since the arrival of CTS, the cost to breeders has gone up significantly. Costs of to the tune of 4.9 million or 79 million Rand. One based on an increased commission, which has occurred.
Increased from what?
From 7% to 8%.
Yeah.
And obviously because the TBA lost revenue from breeders selling at the CTS sale, the TBA was forced to raise their commission to 8%. And the second thing that happened, in order to meet its obligations to industry development, and I talk equine research and the host of other things, we introduced or reintroduced a foal levy that hadn't been in existence for many years. And that's a 500 Rand per foal levy that is now raised in order to meet the obligations of the TBA towards its industry development. So I think the point is that we recognize competition.
Yes.
And it is a wake-up call for certainly the TBA itself. I want to go back to Kevin and his team because, you know, it's a new team of people.
Sure. Just before you go back, I just want to say on CTS for a moment. And CTS charge a fee. I'm talking about their book one. But that is to get international clients here. Their sales figures are high. It's a strong sale, book one. Is it because their marketing is very good on that?
I'm sure it's a combination of things. You know, I think if you go back to this earlier sale this year, the average was 572,000 compared to the national yearling sales average of 338,000. Obviously, there's some big value horses on there. They've got some very...
So the vendors can score?
The vendors, of course, they can score, yeah.
Because they've got some major people on their vendors roll. They certainly have.
That's right. I mean, there's you know, I think the fact is that goes back to what buyers want.
Peter,
buyers will be attracted to certain sales for certain horses. Of course.
Can Salesgate splinter the breeding industry?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day,
they've got to sell their horses. They run businesses. They want their money. They sell their horses.
I think that there needs to be a sensible arrangement of sales dates so that people can have time. Buyers can gather themselves timeously and gather their interest again. We don't want to stifle interest. We don't want to dilute the market. And so there has to be a settling of some sort of... Have
the two parties ever met? Since this Mickey Goss walked across the floor, have CTS sat down with Bloodstock South Africa?
As far as I've been aware, there's been no formal meeting. There's been lots of exchange of correspondence.
Isn't that wrong?
By email. I think there's been an attempt to meet.
Yes.
And I can't talk on that basis. I'm not sufficiently informed.
Yes.
But I mean, something must come of this.
Something must come of this. You know, I can't open up every time I open up the racing paper. There's someone else having to go. One of the two major sales houses. That's not what we're here for.
We're a small industry, Paul. I mean, people compare us to America, compare us to Australia. South Africa breeds 3,000 foals a year. Australia over 20. America over 30,000. So we are a small industry, fighting for survival. Definitely wanting to grow the business and make us, you know, retain our position internationally, which I think we've achieved on a number of different levels. But these issues need to be resolved for the benefit of the industry.
Peter, just one or 2 points.
Members hold the key.
Okay, 1 or 2 points. You wanted to touch on the new team?
Yes, and we sort of missed that slide to some extent. But Kevin Woolward is CEO of the TBA. He brings a wealth of corporate and financial skills with him. And he will head up the new team. Obviously, I'm serving as Director of Breed Affairs, but there's lots of crossover. And I would like to give the members an assurance that we are interrogating every single platform.
Nice word.
We want to build this business run this business on business principles, and that goes to the collection of money, the management of credit. We want to make sure that our returns and services to the members and to buyers equates to a great experience and a viable business.
Peter, and the last one, anything to talk about the closure of Racing South Africa? Is there anything you'd like to touch on?
Look, as we mentioned throughout this interview, Horse Racing South Africa lasted for 10 years. It was built around a couple of principles. One, of course, was to collect money and to disperse it to necessary industry platforms on an equitable basis. Before, it was on a piecemeal individual negotiation. Ian Sander's going to have to go back to that now. It obviously aimed to take forward the issues surrounding export protocols, which we know is no straightforward goal. I need to inform that the company itself will exist for another couple of years, just to make sure that all other funding mechanisms, in other words, for equine research in order to attract government funding, called THRIP, will continue unaffected. And of course, the South African Equine Trade Council, which was an independent body anyway, but was funded by Racing South Africa's shareholders, remains in existence. I was CEO of both companies. Having moved across to the TBA, my position is now a vacancy. We have advertised it, and we have had very little response, I'm surprised to say. But it will have a new direction as well. Dees Dynand and Sheila de Villiers, who are the Secretariat, and Anne Blom, who does the bookkeeping, will remain on board whilst we look for a new CEO to take over. But it will work in very close conjunction with its funders, which are the Gold Circle, CTS, Bloodstock South Africa, the Racing Association, and Mike Holmes Bloodstock.
Peter, thanks very, very much. I hope it's made it a little clearer for people out there, and I hope the major parties offer an olive branch to each other and get this sorted out, Peter.
Look, for the sake of the industry and for to grow this business, these spats have to be put aside. Yeah. So I agree with you, and I hope that the sale will be successful and that buyers have a good time and that they find the right horse, and of course that the vendors sell well.
Excellent. Peter, thanks very, very much. There we go. We've had a great chat with Peter Gibson, and he's cleared up a lot of issues for people out there, and if there's any more to come out of this spat, if we can use that term, we will keep you posted.